welcome to Two Silly Swedes Loving Food. And in this episode, we are talking about what is the kind of food that makes Sicilian cuisine so beautifully tasteful. What is the difference between Sicily and Sweden? And where do we eat the healthiest food? Alright, let's go.
Welcome back to our channel.
Hi!
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 This is my wife. Hi! This is me. We are Linda and Andreas, living in Sweden, and we are eager to experience an adventure. We bought a house in Sicily since we never went there. The first one we visited. Make sense? An abandoned house that needed our love and care. Life is awesome. Follow our journey and our adventure.
Whenever we are in Sicily, we notice the same thing. We eat pasta, we eat bread, we eat pizza, we use quite a lot of olive oil, and somehow the food often feels lighter than the food we eat in Sweden, which is a little confusing, because in Sweden, pasta and pizza are often placed firmly in the unhealthy food category. Eat too much bread and someone will warn you about the carbohydrates. Order pizza and it's usually considered a treat. But in Sicily, these foods are part of everyday life. So what's going on? Is it the sunshine? Is it the olive oil? Is it the fact that Italians somehow managed to turn 3 tomatoes and a piece of bread into proper meal? Or is it the food itself, actually different? The answer is a little bit of everything. When people talk about the Mediterranean diet, they often mention vegetables, fish, olive oil, and fresh fruit. And of course, all that matters. But the Mediterranean diet is not a strict diet plan. It's not about counting every calorie or removing entire food groups. It's more about the pattern. Fresh vegetables, beans and lentils, fish, olive oil, fruit, nuts, smaller amounts of meat, and meals made from relatively simple ingredients. And it's also about how people eat. Meals are often eaten slowly. People sit down, they talk, they share food, and they do not usually eat dinner while standing over the kitchen sink checking emails. At least not traditionally. One obvious difference between Sicily and Sweden is the climate. Sicily has long hot summers and far more sunshine. That gives tomatoes, eggplants, lemons, grapes and other produce time to ripen fully. A tomato that has ripened in the Sicilian sun often tastes completely different from the one that has been picked early and transported across Europe. And it's not only the taste. Ripening conditions can also affect levels of plant compounds. So when Sicilian food tastes more intense, it's not necessarily because the cook has added more ingredients. Sometimes the ingredients simply taste more of themselves. A Sicilian tomato does not need much help. A little salt, olive oil and basil. And suddenly everyone at the table becomes very quiet. Olive oil is everywhere in Sicilian cooking. It's used for frying, for dressing vegetables, for finishing pasta, for dripping bread. But extra virgin olive oil is very different from many heavily refined cooking fats. It contains mostly monounsaturated fat and also contains polyphenols. These compounds are associated with benefits for cardiovascular health and may help reduce inflammation. Of course, olive oil still contains calories. A healthy ingredient does not become calorie free simply because it comes in a beautiful green bottle. But in the Mediterranean diet, olive oil often replaces butter, cream, and more heavily processed fats. That is an important difference. And then there's the flour. This is where things become especially interesting. In Sweden, pizza and pasta are judged simply because they are made from flour. But flour is not just flour. On Sicily, traditional and ancient wheat varieties are still part of the food culture. You may come across names such as Timilia, also called Tuminia, Russello, or Bidi. These are old Sicilian wheat varieties that were grown long before modern agriculture became focused on a smaller number of high-yield crops. In Sweden, heritage grains do exist, but they are much less common in ordinary supermarkets, restaurants, and everyday pizza or pasta or bread. In Sicily, small mills, bakeries, pasta producers, and pizzerias often proudly tell you which grain they use. The name of the wheat may even be written on the menu. That tells you something important. The flour is not always treated as anonymous white powder. It can be part of the identity of the food. Are the ancient grains healthier? This is where we need to be careful. Ancient grain does not automatically mean healthy, and modern grain does not automatically mean unhealthy. But some older Sicilian wheat varieties have shown interesting differences in studies, including different protein profiles and, in some cases, higher antioxidant activity. They are also often adapted to Sicily's dry climate and contribute to agriculture biodiversity. The biggest nutritional difference may also come from how the grain is milled. Many traditional flours are stone ground or less refined. That can leave more of the bran and germ in the flour. And that usually means more fiber, minerals, and plant compounds. But an ancient wheat can still be refined into white flour. So both the variety and the milling process matter. Traditional dried pasta is normally made from durum, wheat, semolina, and water. Durum wheat is hard wheat. It produces pasta with a dense structure, particularly when the pasta is cooked al dente. That structure affects how the starch is broken down during digestion. So pasta does not necessarily behave in the body in exactly the same way as soft white bread, pastries, or sweet baked goods. And there is the portion. In Sicily, pasta is traditionally in primo piatti, a first course. It is not always served in a bowl large enough to wash a small child in. The sauce may be made from tomatoes, eggplants, broccoli, beans, sardines, garlic, olive oil. So the meal contains much more than pasta. It may also contain fiber, healthy fats, protein, and plenty of vegetables. This changes both how filling the meal is and how the body processes it. A plate of pasta with fried eggplant, tomato, herbs, and a little cheese is not nutritionally identical to a large plate of pasta covered in cream and processed meat. Both are pasta dishes, but they are not the same meal. The same applies to the bread. A slice of slowly fermented bread with a less refined flour is not the same as a sweet ultra-processed bread product with a long list of additives. The name of the food does not tell you everything. How it was made matters. What it is eaten with matters. And how much of it you eat definitely matters. And what about pizza? Pizza has particularly bad reputation in Sweden, and honestly, sometimes it deserves it. A thick industrial base covered in large amounts of cheese, processed meat, sugary sauce, and extra dressing is a very energy-dense meal. But that is not the only kind of pizza. A traditional Italian pizza may have a thin base and only a few toppings. Tomato, a moderate amount of cheese, vegetables, anchovies, a little olive oil. The dough may also be fermented for many hours. Some pizzerias use local flour or blends containing traditional grains. Long fermentation changes the dough and may make it easier for some people to digest. It also creates better flavor and texture, but it does not remove gluten. And it does not magically make pizza calorie-free. Sadly, no amount of fermentation has yet turned a family-sized pizza into a salad. Swedish pizza and Sicilian pizza are not the same thing. Part of the confusion may come from what pizza represents in the two countries. In Sweden, pizza is often fast food. It may come with a large amount of cheese, kebab meat, chips, sauce, or even all four at once. In Sicily, pizza is often simpler. The dough, tomatoes, and olive oil play a larger role. There may be a fewer toppings, but the ingredients have more flavor. So when we say that pizza is unhealthy, we may actually be talking about a particular version of pizza, not pizza as a complete category. Fresh fish changes the whole diet, and Sicily is surrounded by the sea, so fish and seafood naturally play an important role. Sardines, anchovies, swordfish, sea bream, tuna. Small oily fishes such as sardines and anchovies contain omega-3 fatty acids and are often eaten with simple accompaniments. And are often eaten with vegetables, bread, lemon, olive oil. Again, the meal is not complicated. That is one of the great strengths of Sicilian cooking. Good ingredients are allowed to remain recognizable. Nothing has to be hidden under 3 sauces and a mountain of cheese. But Sweden also has real strengths. I can't put Sweden under the bus. It's not a competition where Sicily wins everything and Sweden has to go home with a bag of frozen meatballs. Swedish food has its own nutritional strengths. We have excellent oats, rye and barley. Traditional crisp bread are dense, whole grain. And that bread can contain much more fiber than white Sicilian bread. We also have blueberries, lingonberries, cloudberries, all rich in beneficial plant compounds. Swedish dairy products are often high quality. Food safety is generally excellent, and our traditional grain culture is stronger than we sometimes realize. The difference is that Sweden's best grain traditions are often found in rye bread, oats, and whole grain products. Sicily's traditional grain story is more closely connected to durum wheat, pasta, bread, and local ancient varieties. So why can pasta, bread, and pizza feel so different in Sicily? It's not because carbohydrates stopped counting when you cross the Mediterranean. It is because the entire meal may be different. The flour may come from local or traditional grain, the dough may be fermented for longer, and pasta may be cooked al dente. The portion may be smaller, the sauce may contain more vegetables, the fat may come mainly from olive oil, and the meal may be eaten slowly, sitting down, rather than rushed between two appointments. No single ingredient explains everything. It's the combination. So, when we are in Sicily, we often eat more bread, pasta, and olive oil than we do in Sweden. On paper, that sounds as though we should feel heavier, but often we do not. The meals are usually simple, the ingredients are fresh, and we eat few ready-made products. And because food tastes more, it often feels as though it needs less decoration. Of course, we also eat gelato. This is still Sicily, not a health retreat. But perhaps that is the part of the Mediterranean approach too. Food is not divided into perfect food or forbidden food. It's part of life. You eat well most of the time, and occasionally you eat pistachio gelato at 10 o'clock in the evening and feel absolutely no guilt about it. So, perhaps the question is not, is pasta unhealthy, or is Sicilian flour better? The better questions are, which grain was used? How was it milled? How was the dough prepared? How large is the portion? And what is it served with? Because the traditional Sicilian plate of pasta is not simply a bowl of carbohydrates, it's wheat, vegetables, olive oil, local tradition, and completely different way of eating. And that may be why the same food can feel so different in Sweden and Sicily. Now tell us, do you feel better when eating in Italy? And which would you choose, a Swedish whole grain breakfast or a Sicilian plate of pasta?